Okay. Good morning, everyone. We're going to get our meeting started here, so if you wouldn't mind finding your seats. Just don't put my picture up there. That'll be good. All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our September the 8th, 2021 regular meeting of our Flagler County Board of County Commissioners. I'm now calling this meeting to order and ask that you join us in a pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And as we do at the start of every meeting, we ask that you join us in a moment of silence as we think about, remember, and pray for all of the first responders in our community, from our fire services, EMS services, all our city first responders, the brave men and women of our Flagler County Sheriff's Department, also the brave men and women that serve in our other local police departments, and of course, we can never forget the brave men and women of the United States military that keep us safe here and abroad. And most recently, we had some recognition of healthcare workers throughout this community, and we also want to keep them in our thoughts and prayers for all the fantastic work that they've been doing and the pressure that they're under with still dealing with this pandemic. So please join us in a moment of silence. Okay, thank you. Just bear with us. We have several announcements here and some additions and deletions, so take a couple of minutes here. First off, we need an addition, or requesting an addition, and call it item 4B4, which would be a recognition of POW MIA Recognition Day Proclamation for September the 17th, 2021, so I would entertain a motion to adjust our agenda to include that.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adjust our agenda to add item 4B4, POW MIA Recognition Day Proclamation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. That carries. Thank you. Next up, we have a modification suggestion here, and I'm just going to read this. At the August the 16th, 2021 meeting, item 9A, which was entitled Hunters Ridge DRI, was continued to 9:30 a.m. As a time certain for this morning, for today's meeting. If there is a consensus by the board to allow items 4A through now 4C to be heard prior to the beginning of the item 9A hearing, or are we going to, not sure if we're going to continue that or how we're going to handle that one. So just looking for some guidance here.
Do you need a motion, Mr. Chairman, or just want a consensus?
Are we just making sure that we get to it by 9:30, or?
Well, no, I think we should do get rid of all of 4.
And we may be a little after
and then go to
9:30.
Hunter Ridge.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think we can just agree to that, right?
Okay. So we'll do. So we're okay if it bleeds a little bit past 9:30.
Right.
We're fine with
That's
that.
fine.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. Announcements. First off is a notice to everyone and a reminder that the Flagler County Legislative Delegation Day, which is an organizational meeting and general legislative public hearing, will be held here in our GSB chambers on October the 1st, 2021 at 3 p.m. Again, that's the meeting that would be run by Senator Hudson and Representative Renner. And the purpose of this meeting is for them to elect a chair and a vice chair. You can do the math. One gets the other. Don't remember the order of their delegation, and then take public testimony on legislative issues, appropriations, and local bills. So again, that is October the 1st, and that's at 3 p.m. here in our chambers. An announcement of upcoming meetings and workshops and special meetings. This evening, we have our first truth and millage or trim notice or trim meeting, which is the required first public budget hearing, and that'll be tonight right here in the chambers at 5:30 p.m. We also have scheduled one of two meetings on impact fees, a workshop, and that one's scheduled for Tuesday, September the 14th at 1 p.m. There's a second workshop that's scheduled, and this is for discussion for us commissioners. There's a second scheduled workshop for September the 20th, and let's see if I get this right here. No, that has nothing to do with the workshop. I apologize. The question comes up is that I know several of us have a commitment in Tallahassee on the 21st at 10 a.m., and normally we would have our 5:30 meeting on September our 5 o'clock meeting on September the 20th. So there's been some discussion about us changing the time of that meeting on the 20th to earlier, I think to 10 a.m. Or something of that sort. Is that what we were talking about, Ms. Heidi?
Correct. You would have a 9 o'clock meeting and then for the budget, and then immediately following would start your board meeting.
Okay. So just looking for some
Yeah,
opinion on that.
That's fine, because we got to drive to Tallahassee that night.
Yeah, I agree. If we can do that, I
We can
want to
do
do
that,
it.
that's great. Yeah.
But there's a note there about, is it legal for us to do that or something? I read. So I just,
Mr. Adid?
They're talking about these.
Yes, you have freedom to adjust your schedule. We'll obviously do all the noticing that we can to alert people to changes.
And it's over a month
I sort of
away.
read something over.
Yeah.
So at this, what's on the table for discussion here is to change our meeting from the 21st, move it back to the 20th the public hearing, the budget public hearing, we would do that at 9 a.m. and immediately following that, we would commence the regular board meeting.
You have to, I'm sorry, you have to convene the budget hearing after 5:01. The other items can be shifted.
Well,
You have to split up the grouping of the items. So you still have to come together to do the 5:01 p.m. hearing on the budget, but the other items you can, which you would normally hear that evening, you can reschedule them so that you don't have the travel conflict. You minimize the travel conflict.
Okay,
That
so
make sense?
we could have a regular commission meeting at 9 a.m. on the 20th, and then the budget hearing at 5 o'clock on the 20th. So-
That's correct, except,
Impact fees in the morning.
okay, at 9 a.m. of that day, they're calling for an impact fee workshop on the school impact fees, school district fees. Then at 10 o'clock, then you would start your regular meeting. Do you see that?
Yes? All right, commissioners, we have that straight?
Yep.
So the suggestion is 9 o'clock, workshop, impact fees on the 20th, 10 o'clock, regular commission meeting on the 20th, 5 o'clock, second public budget meeting on the 20th.
Correct, sir.
That works. I think that works.
Can we make that in one motion?
Yes.
Anyone care to do that?
Sure. Mr. Chairman, I move that we change our schedule to reflect that on the 20th, we'll have a 9 o'clock public workshop on impact fees. At 10 o'clock, we'll have a regular commission meeting. And at 5 o'clock that evening, we'll have our budget hearing.
second.
Okay. Should I get public comment on that?
Yes, probably just in the interest if anyone has any comment on that.
Okay, we'll open, we have a motion to adjust our schedule as delineated by Commissioner Hanson. second by Commissioner Sullivan. Anyone from the public wish to comment on that? All right, seeing no one come forward, we'll close public comment. I'll call a question to the board. All those in favor of the motion to adjust the schedule as delineated by Commissioner Hansen's motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously.
Now,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I don't know if you have this in your possession, but because of that shift of the regular meeting from 5 o'clock to 10 o'clock, there has to be a repositioning of advertised meetings that would have occurred that evening. And so one of those is a quasi-judicial application for special use in the agricultural district.
Yes, I have a list of those
Oh, you have
items.
those? Okay, so all of those will need to be switched to 10 a.m. or as soon thereafter as the board can hear them.
Do
So
I need
you
to
should
read those
probably-
for- read
You should
those for
note
public
those for the
disclosure?
record.
Okay, I will read these then, and thank you for everyone for bearing with us. We just need to get through some of this business here. To preserve public notice, the following public hearings that were originally scheduled on September the 20th, 2021 at 5:30 PM or as soon thereafter, as these items could be heard, will instead be heard at 10 a.m. on September the 20th or as soon thereafter as the board can consider each request. These items are, number one, it's a quasi-judicial matter application number 3259, which is a request for a special use in the agricultural district, and there's further information there. Number two is another quasi-judicial matter, that's application number 3260, request for approval of a PUD site development plan and adoption of specific development standards for a section of Plantation Bay. Number three is a legislative matter, and this is a request for a notice of a proposed change for the Hunters Ridge development of regional impact. Number four is another legislative matter, and that's amendment to the Flagler County Code of Ordinances to amend Article 5, Educational Facilities Impact Fees, or fee. And number six is another legislative matter, and that's an amendment to the Flagler County Code of Ordinances, Article 5, with respect to educational facilities impact fees. So that is a listing of the items that will be moved from 5:30 PM on the 20th to 10 AM on the 20th. Okay? And that serves as public notice on that. Okay. Let's see. Just to finish up on announcements. Let's see. Oh, I think we have everything. I think that completes all the announcements and the changes, so I think we're okay there. We'll move on to recognitions, proclamations, and presentations. Oh, before I do that, if it's okay with the board, the city manager from Benel is here, Mr. Alvin Jackson, and I wanted to just take 1 minute, if I could, and let him introduce their new commissioner. That would help us get to the rest of this in a timely manner. So, Dr. Jackson, you have the floor.
Once again, it is another great day in beautiful Flagler County. We're here this morning just briefly to introduce one of our new city commissioners, Commissioner Robert Barnes, actually who resides in the Grand Reserve area. And we also have another new city commissioner, Tina Marie Schultz, and she was unable to be with us this morning. So this morning we introduce Commissioner Robert Barnes.
Morning, Commissioner.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for inviting me here this morning. It's an honor for me to be able to serve the people of Bunnell, and I'm looking forward to working with you and all the commission to move the city and the county forward. Thank you.
Well, welcome and good luck.
Welcome
Best of
aboard.
luck to you, sir. Okay, thank you, Mr. Barnes. Thank you, Dr. Jackson and commissioners. Appreciate it. So we'll move on to recognitions. We did that with we'll go to item 4B, and we'll start our proclamations. And first up is a recognition of National Arts and Education Week. And I've asked Commissioner Sullivan to read that proclamation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Proclamation of the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners recognizing September 12th through 18th, 2021 as Arts in Education Week in Flagler County. Whereas arts education, comprising a rich array of disciplines including dance, media arts, music, theater, visual arts, and more, is a well-rounded subject and an essential element of a complete and well-rounded education for all students. And whereas arts education enables students to develop critical thinking and problem-solving skills, imagination, and creativity, including discipline and collaboration, alternate ways to communicate and express feelings and ideas, the cross-cultural understanding which supports academic success across the curriculum. And whereas arts education contributes to increased attendance and graduation rates and prepares students for college, career, and citizenship readiness. And whereas arts education contributes to personal growth outside of the classroom, including increasing a student's likelihood to participate in civic life, volunteerism, altruism, and community engagement. And whereas to succeed in today's economy, students must masterfully develop traits that business leaders demand in a 21st century workforce. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners that they hereby declare September 12th through 18th, 2021 as Arts and Education Week in Flagler County, encouraging all residents to observe the week with appropriate activities adopted this 8th day of September 2021, signed by Tom Blexley, Clerk of the Circuit Court and Controller, and Chairman of the Flagler Board of County Commissioners, our Chairman Donald O'Brien. So please come forward. And here's the proclamation.
Welcome,
I
Ms.
just
Amy.
want to thank you for recognizing arts and education. In
Amy,
2010,
You have to introduce yourself.
I'm
for the
sorry,
record.
this is Amelia Fulmer from the Flagler Auditorium. I represent Flagler Auditorium, Flagler Schools, and the arts community. And I wanted to speak to you to thank you so much for proclaiming. That first proclamation was in 2010, and that's been a while ago. And I just want to tell you about my local experience with the arts and education. I've spent most of my adult life in arts and education. And every time those kids line up and the parents line up to see those kids in the auditorium, and you watch a band concert, you watch Flagler Youth Orchestra, you watch the dance, you watch recitals, every time we come together in unity to celebrate a child's success. And the successful children have a lot of grit, guts, resilience, initiative, and tenacity. That's what it takes to be an artist. I don't want to take too much of your time, but I really wanted to have just a second to have Ed Beckett speak just a second. Ed Beckett is a visual arts. I can speak a lot for performing arts, but I wanted Ed Beckett to say just a couple of words about visual arts in Flagler Schools. And I want you to meet Molly Maresca. She is here from Thespians. She's the drama president, so she's here to represent us. We also have a lot of the arts community here too.
Good morning, all.
Morning, Mr.
Nice
Beckett.
to see you all. I just kind of let you know that I've been, actually I'm in my 34th year teaching at FPC, 39 years altogether. And I was just telling somebody earlier that when I first started, my portable was sat right outside where the auditorium is now. It wasn't there then. So my first year, the auditorium, the second year I was there, the auditorium broke ground for the auditorium. So been there a long time. We've worked really hard over those 30 years to build something special at FPC in the arts, and I think we've really done that. We have over 75 former students that make their living doing something that they learned in the arts here at FPC in the visual arts. Most of them own their own businesses. We've also done 4 years of the FPC Artist Hall of Fame, where we inducted 3 kids a year into our Artist Hall of Fame. And just over the past 2 years, we've inducted 14 Emmys into our Hall of Fame. Like, you know, the Emmys you see on TV? Yep, those Emmys, which is pretty cool. And in addition to a bunch of Tellies and Addies, which are television awards and advertising awards. I wanted to say that part of that proclamation says that basically that studies say that employers want people to work for them that are critical thinkers and creative problem solvers. And that's all we do. and that we are preparing kids for the real world, and those are the kinds of kids that our employers are looking for. So I just wanted to just mention a few things, and thank you for listening, and I appreciate your time.
Hello, good morning. I'm Molly Maresca. I'm a senior over at Flagler Palm Coast High School. I'm the president of the drama program there, and I'm an officer of our choir. I also do work at the Flagler Auditorium in the box office. So my whole world is basically arts and education. I'm very proud to be part of these programs. I've seen many friends go through and be successful in the arts after high school and college, in the professional world, and it has inspired me to go and take that path. And I truly don't believe if we didn't have these programs in Flagler County, I could do that. So thank you for your time and have a great day.
Thank you, Molly. Commissioners, any questions for the group? All right.
Could I do a motion to?
Yeah. Would you mind taking a photo with us?
I would love to, and I'd like to invite, we have Nancy Crouch from Palm Coast Arts Foundation. We have some of our board members from the Flagler Auditorium and John Spordome from the City Repertory Theater. So I would like to thank all my colleagues for coming and standing up for arts and education. So guys, come up.
They
and
can come
let's take
forward.
a picture.
While I do that, I'd like to make a
Cheryl
motion
Tristram.
to approve the National Arts and Education Week proclamation.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, that motion carries unanimously. Great. Yeah.
Your chin. Can you come on this side? Yes, please. Thank you.
Find it before you sit down. All right, and again, thank you everyone from the arts community for joining with us this morning. Next up is a recognition of National Recovery Month for September 2021. And I would ask Commissioner Mullins to read that proclamation.
Thank you, Chairman. I am very honored to read this proclamation as it's near and dear to my heart and the community that addresses this. A proclamation of the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners recognizing the month of September 2021 as National Recovery Month in Flagler County. Whereas each September, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Substances Abuse, and Mental Health Services Administration sponsors National Recovery Month. And whereas the 2021 National Recovery Month theme is recovery is for everyone. Every person, every family, every community explores how integrated care, a strong community, a sense of purpose and leadership contributes to effective treatment that sustain the recovery of individuals experiencing substance use disorder. And whereas the substance use disorder is preventable, treatment is effective and people can recover. Whereas to help more people with lived experiences achieve and sustain recovery. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, and Flagler Open Arms Recovery Services invite all residents to participate in National Recovery Month. And whereas relatives and friends of individuals with substance use disorders can implement preventative measures, recognizing the signs and problems, and guide those in need to appropriate treatment and recovery support services. And whereas the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration encourages residents to participate in National Recovery Month and to learn more how to help achieve and sustain long-term recovery. And whereas the Recovery Month celebrates the gain made by those living in recovery. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners, and that I hereby declare September 2021 as National Recovery Month in Flagler County. Adopted this 8th day of September 2021, and attested by our Clerk of Courts, Tom Bexley, and signed by our Flagler County Board of County Commissioners Chairman, Donald T. O'Brien.
Anyone from, oh, yeah. Morning.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Chairman O'Brien. I'm Pam Bertolo. I'm the Executive Director of Flagler Open Arms Recovery Services. And as I stand before you, I remember a year ago. And since that time, thanks to your support, a couple of you, we had Dunk Tank Antics. We received support from the Public Safety Commission. And just your overall support, we've been able to more than double in size. We have provided our mission, which is public education, policy advocacy, and peer support. We have provided public education to over 2,000 individuals in this county. We have been able to be involved at the state and federal levels in policy advocacy, and we have provided over 1,000 hours of peer support. So I want to thank you. We're pleased to be here. We look forward to a continuing relationship. And finally, a shameless plug, National Recovery Month Festival, our inaugural festival for this county, is September 18th in Veterans Park. It's a full day of live music, food trucks, recovery speakers, and all kinds of surprises. So we encourage the entire community, because remember, recovery is for everyone. We encourage the entire community to come. So gentlemen, thank you so much.
Pam, is that Veterans Park in Flagler Beach?
It is.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
No, we sure appreciate all that you do for the community, and it's really very encouraging is the wrong word, but it's a great sign that you're building momentum, and just really impressed with the organization and the work that ORS is doing in helping this community. So appreciate
Well,
it.
thank you, Chairman O'Brien. And I left, you guys will get these, so you can share them with all your friends and family.
I think Commissioner Mullins just had another question.
No, I want to thank the group because of groups like this and the others, and just the big push that we're doing to tackle recovery. We have our private industries for the first time talking about coming to Flagler County, and that's work that you guys are doing, the attention you guys are getting, and the desire to see that we tackle this recovery head on. But I appreciate the work you do, and it takes every organization here. There will never be too many to be able to battle against this. We need everybody's support. We need to work together, and we need to remember that the addict is who we're here for, to bring them to another
So
point.
our board thanks you, and our staff thanks you.
All right, can you help us with a photo? 'Cause,
Yes.
you know, that's our favorite thing.
And what time on the 18th does that start? 8 o'clock? At noon? At noon.
Hey, Miss Kim. Good.
Thank you all.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion that we approve September 2021 as National Recovery Month.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. That motion carries unanimously. Our third proclamation for today is recognition of National Suicide Prevention and Action Month, and I'm going to take the pleasure in reading that. A proclamation of the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners recognizing the month of September 2021 as National Suicide Prevention and Action Month in Flagler County. Whereas September is known globally as Suicide Prevention Month, the National Suicide Prevention and Action Month proclamation was created to raise the visibility of the mental health resources and suicide prevention services available in communities. The goal is to start the conversation about mental health and the impact of suicide to help destigmatize the conversation and help connect people with the appropriate support services. And whereas, according to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, suicide is the 10th leading cause of death among adults and the second leading cause of death among individuals between the ages of 10 and 34 in the United States. And whereas more than 48,000 people died by suicide across the United States in 2018, with an average of 132 suicides completed daily. And whereas each and every suicide directly impacts a minimum of 100 additional people, including family, friends, coworkers, neighbors, and community members. And whereas Flagler County publicly places its full support behind those who work in the fields of mental health, education, and law enforcement. And whereas global organizations like Hope for the Day and our local mental health partners serve on the front lines of a war that many still refuse to discuss, as stigma regarding suicide and mental health issues is far too prevalent. And whereas we encourage all residents to take the time to understand the importance of mental health education and recognize that taking care of ourselves and others includes taking care of mental health. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners that they hereby declare September 2021 as National Suicide Prevention Month and Action Month in Flagler County, adopted this 8th day of September 2021, attested by Tom Bexley, Clerk of the Court, and signed by myself, Donald O'Brien, Chair. And you had raised this as a proclamation, Commissioner Mullins. Is there anyone else from an organization here, or?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Important steps and information. So with that, I would ask for a motion on this item.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the proclamation making September 17th Suicide Prevention Month.
Second. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries unanimously, and thank you, Commissioner Mullins, for raising that for us.
Thank you.
And last but not least, on our proclamations for today, we have a recognition of POW and MIA Day, which is declared to be September the 17th, 2021. And I have asked Commissioner Hanson to read that proclamation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A proclamation of the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners recognizing September 17th, 2021 as POW MIA Recognition Day in Flagler County. Whereas the United States of America has been founded on the principles of freedom, justice, and respect for life, and whereas millions of men and women have served in the armed forces of the United States in order to preserve those principles, and whereas those veterans number over 12,000 in Flagler County, and whereas the American Legion supports achieving a full accounting of all POW MIAs from the Gulf War, Vietnam War, Cold War, Korean War, and World War II, and whereas those unaccounted for POW MIAs number 81,600, and whereas the National League of Families proposed the third Friday of September as a commemorative date, and whereas the Flagler County Veterans Organization members continue to serve by sponsoring programs and supporting legislation to benefit veterans, and whereas the Veterans Service Organizations formed the Flagler County Veterans Advisory Council to provide a united effort in support of those veterans, and whereas Flagler County Veterans Advisory Council supports the National POW MIA Recognition Day and encourages all to remember those who have not returned from past conflicts. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners that they hereby proclaim September 17th, 2021 as POW MIA Recognition Day in Flagler County, and encourage all residents to participate in remembering by suitable ceremonies. Adopted this 8th day of September 2021, attested by Tom Bexley, Clerk of the Circuit Court and Comptroller, and signed by our County Commissioner Chairman, Don O'Brien.
Thank you, Commissioner. Colonel Ladin?
Good morning, Commissioners. On behalf of the thousands of veterans and families in Flagler County, by the way, I'm David Leiden, the Veteran Service Officer. Thank you so much for this proclamation and for all those who support veterans as well. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the proclamation of Flagler County Board of County Commissioners recognizing September 17th as POW MIA Recognition Day in Flagler County.
Second?
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. That is unanimous. Okay, thank you, Commissioners. Next up, we're going to move to our presentations. And first up is a review of our annual investment performance by PFM and Mr. Clerk, or not sure who's going to kick that off, I guess. Morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jennifer Barker, Clerk's Office. I'd like to present Public Financial Management, Richard Pengali and Scott Sweeten. They're going to present you with the annual report of basically how you did with your investments in the past year. Obviously, it's not great because the economy has been pretty awful. But thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you, Jen, for that background.
Right. Thank you.
It's a tough act to follow.
Right. Unfortunately, it's the truth. So I don't know if there's a clicker or a presentation. Otherwise, I guess you'd have to go to the backup material.
Well, did you give us the presentation to load up? Okay. We have that? Let them find it for us first.
Okay.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Overhead.
If the IT director can't get it right, then we're all in
We're in
trouble.
a lot of
here.
trouble.
About what?
Just about the fentanyl, or
There we go.
Let me just,
Thank you, Ron.
you can do that, but let me just,
Okay, great. Okay. So good morning. My name is Richard Pengali. I'm with PFM out of our Orlando office. With me is Scott Sweeten, also in our Orlando office. Good morning.
Morning.
Morning. So, as based on that introduction is correct. While the economy actually is recovering very well, we've seen strong growth following one of the deepest but shortest recessions as a result of the pandemic last year, which lasted 2 months. The economy is growing very strongly. The projected growth for this year is 6-7%, depending on which economist number you look at, and you contrast that with the growth that we'd seen pre-pandemic of around 2 to 2.5% growth per year. So as we are recovering, the economy is recovering very, very strongly, but it's sort of lopsided, and there are some places where we do have some challenges. So the county's portfolio and yields in the county's portfolio is going to be driven by really what the Federal Reserve is doing and what they're doing with short-term rates. You're predominantly invested in the short part of the market, short-term maturities, high-quality investments which tie directly to the Fed funds rate, which is set by the Federal Reserve. So we spend all of our time thinking about and analyzing what the Federal Reserve is doing to really understand what's impacting the returns in your portfolio. So, so what is the Fed looking at? The Fed is really focused on really two things. One, employment in the economy and having full employment in the economy, and they're focused on having stable prices. And both of those have been a really big story as we're working through the recovery. So during the pandemic, everyone was trapped at home because of the lockdowns, and everyone was on Amazon and other e-commerce platforms buying a lot of goods. So you actually saw strong growth in goods throughout 2020. As things have opened up this year, that has shifted to more service-driven growth as people who are stuck in their homes are getting out, they're eating more, they're traveling, they're doing things that involve people again. And so we've seen that shift, and the goods sort of growth has sort of stagnated. In terms of employment, what that has meant that the weakest area of the labor force, kind of that leisure and hospitality sector, the services sector, which suffered the most last year, has started to recover this year again. So, you know, all of this, of course, is, you know, good news for getting people back out, back out to work. At this point, there are, if you look in aggregate, as many job openings as there are people who say that they're looking to have jobs. But despite that, the overall labor force participation rate has not recovered from the depths of last year. So the employment rate has recovered maybe 80%, the unemployment rate has recovered maybe 80% of what was lost, but the overall labor force participation rate has only recovered about 50% of what was lost last year, meaning that you have folks who've been sort of disconnected from the workforce. And this is one of the things that the Fed is really concerned about and really drives their decision to keep more stimulus in the economy, which is unfortunate for you all because it means they're inclined to keep rates low for longer. So the other thing that they're you know, mandated to focus on is stable prices. And we've seen, if you're watching the press, if you've gone to the supermarket, if you've tried to buy a used car, you know, that prices are significantly higher, right? As you have all of these imbalances, you've got supply chain imbalances throughout the economy. All this is driving prices higher. But from the Fed's point of view, when they dig into the data, you see big outsized price gains in certain areas, but it's not broad-based in their view. And their general view is that this is also going to be transitory, that these effects will relieve themselves as supply chains open up, as people sort of make these kind of one-time purchases, take that one-time trip, but then they don't keep doing that. All of these factors will subside. And the market and consensus among economists also kind of support that when we look at various measures. So although we're seeing high numbers now, the Fed expects next year that things will drop back down to that 2% target level that they're looking at. So against this backdrop, you know, as I mentioned before, is really the bad news. What we're showing now is the Fed's own forecasts. We call it the dot plot, and it's their forecast of where they see short-term rates over the next couple of years. They don't anticipate changing it at all this year, and they're unanimous in thinking that way. So we're going to stay near zero for the rest of the year. The generally consensus view is that they're going to keep it at zero all throughout next year, and that it's not until 2023 that we'll actually start seeing them raising interest rates. Again, that's sort of the bad news story, is that we're stuck in this low rate environments for some time. Even if the Fed maybe has it wrong, maybe they'll start liftoff sometime next year. It still means for the near term here that we're stuck with these lower rates. And even in their longer term view, they're really only looking at maybe 2% rates on short-term rates. Nothing like the 4 or 5% short-term rates that we're seeing pre-credit crisis. So we're in this low rate environment, and we're here for some while. Yes.
All right, question. So and maybe if I'm jumping ahead, I apologize, but I mean, it looked like if I read it right, the average maturity for our portfolio is extremely short, like like 1.3 months or something like that.
Correct.
So we don't really have a lot of risk for rising interest rates in terms of the value of the portfolio because we're so short-term, correct?
Correct. Yes, and that's actually one of the things that we're looking at, and why I sort of spoke more about the timing for the rates to stay low. There is some value of going a little further out on the curve, and if rates are going to stay lower for some time, it does make sense actually to put some funds out a little longer. We've done a lot of cash flow work with staff, and based on that cash flow work, have identified some small amount of money that we can diversify in terms of maturities. So even if rates start rising, you don't really have an expectation to dip into those funds for quite some time, and they can help you sort of deal with this low rate environment over economic cycles. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Scott to talk about sort of where the portfolio is now.
Thank you, Richard. First of all, good morning, Commissioners. I'm Scott Sweeten with PFM. And just for the sake of your agenda, I'm not going to cover every slide. We'll go through the appropriate ones. This particular slide is just a good snapshot as of June 30th of your portfolio. And as Richard had already alluded to, and you just brought up the question, Commissioner O'Brien, we have 100% exposure to commercial paper. Looking at the portfolio statistics as of June 30th, total market value, $58,076,487. The two areas we're going to look at are yield at cost, which is 25 basis points. That is actually what your portfolio is yielding. And yield at market, 0.09%. That's a good benchmark, if you will. In theory, that's showing if we were to go back out into the marketplace on June 30th, repurchase all of the securities that are in your portfolio, that would be roughly the range what we would be at as far as yield. So we've already discussed average maturity. You're looking at 0.13 years, average credit rating A. This particular slide really serves two purposes. First of all, it shows where you were allocated as of June 30th, 2021, and also the major component is showing if you're in compliance with your investment policy. Now, if we look at the bottom right column, the great news is you're in compliance across the board. To the left of that, you can see the levels that are permitted by the current investment policy, given the various asset sectors on the far left. And if we look at the upper portion of the slide, the bar chart, the gold portion of the bar is indicating the levels that are permitted by your investment policy. The blue shaded region is where you were allocated as of June 30th. Just a quick visual takeaway, you can see we've got a pretty healthy buffer between where you're allocated and the maximum levels permitted by your policy. An ideal position to be in for both of us, allows us quite a bit of flexibility as the investment manager. Now, the next slide shows if you're in compliance per individual issuer. And again, if we look at the far right column, you're in compliance across the board. You may have a question with the asterisk next to the yes for Royal Bank of Canada. You're in compliance. The only reason that's showing above the 5% level that's permitted by your policy is just market fluctuations, market value appreciation, but in compliance at the time of purchase. So again, across the board, in compliance, essentially, those are the takeaways there. Any questions? Those would be the prepared remarks I have. Anything additional?
Any questions, gentlemen?
None from me.
Okay. All right. It's
Thank you. Very good presentation.
It's just strikingly obvious, we're the same as a consumer. I mean, we're obviously a government entity, but yielding very low on our portfolio, and yet we're suffering from inflation just like anybody else in terms of goods and services we have to purchase as an organization, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you're in Europe, they have negative yields there, so,
It could be worse.
count your blessing. Right, it could be worse.
All right, thank
All
you.
right, well, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Next up is a presentation from the Northeast Florida Regional Planning Council and their resiliency coordinator. And Sean, I apologize, I'm not sure how to pronounce your last name.
Oh, no worries about that. It's Sean Lahav.
Lahav, okay?
Thank you.
Well, welcome, Sean.
Thank you. So, good morning, Commissioners. Thank you very much for allowing me this opportunity to address you today. I am also joined by my colleague, Tyler Nolan, who is the assigned Regional Council staff member for Flagler County. So it's a pleasure to be here. The focus of our presentation today is on the Northeast Florida COVID-19 Economic Recovery Plan that was recently developed for the region and published in May of 2021. Additionally, this presentation will also address components of the American Rescue Plan Act and how that relates to Flagler County. So if you have any questions, more than happy to answer them as I go or towards the end of the presentation. So on an introductory note for members of the public and others who might not be familiar with the Regional Council, the Northeast Florida Regional Council is one of 10 regional planning councils in the state of Florida. The Northeast Florida region serves 7 counties and 25 municipalities. Flagler is one of those member governments, and we also work with municipalities within Flagler, such as Flagler Beach, Palm Coast, etc. Our program areas cover a diverse array of domains, ranging from planning and public policy to emergency preparedness, healthcare preparedness, economic development, and the issue of resiliency, which we're here to talk about today. So traditionally in the state of Florida and even across the country in recent years, the term resilience or resiliency has been utilized to address issues related to coastal flooding, sea level rise, and a changing climate. And we participated with Flagler County in a grant last year through FDEP to develop a county-wide approach to resilience in Flagler County. That was really focused on flooding. Within this process, we're looking at economic resilience, and that refers to the abilities of local economies to bounce back to normal conditions after losing function. And so looking at the pandemic and economic shutdowns, our objective over the past year and a half has been to identify solutions to help local governments move forward and recover. And so going back all the way to the beginning of the pandemic, just as it started, the Regional Council shifted its resources and programs to respond to economic impacts. One of the first products that was produced was a small business resource guide that inventoried all of the different grant funding opportunities that were available across the country. And we provided that to emergency management departments, chambers of commerce, and other stakeholder groups to help people out on the ground. Additionally, we utilized REMI economic forecasting software to monitor evolving conditions. And so REMI is traditionally utilized for economic development, more from a positive lens. But within this context, we were monitoring how the national disaster was affecting local economies, sectors, and industries. And then this slide, for some reason, is not showing up very well. But in August 2020, about a year ago, the Regional Council received a grant from the CARES Act at the federal level, and this was awarded through the U.S. Economic Development Administration. The EDA charged the Regional Council with responding to economic impacts caused by the pandemic. And so in utilizing the funding, we established the Northeast Florida Economic Resilience Task Force, a 20-member policy body comprised of leaders from across Northeast Florida charged with identifying solutions that could help local governments in economic recovery. Denise Bevan from the city of Palm Coast was the representative who represented Flagler County and your interest, and we were very grateful for her support. And so this really takes us to the next steps of what I really want to highlight today. So going back to the beginning of the task force about a year ago, Regional Council staff produced a 100-page briefing guide that laid out all of the details, data, and information of what we understood about local conditions before and after the pandemic. And so in the section, or in the briefing guide, there's a chapter specifically focused on Flagler County that provides detailed data and information of economic conditions that were on the ground before the pandemic and how these vulnerabilities could have potentially been exacerbated. Some of the issues looked at in this document included median household income, other data indicators, and challenges like broadband access, where we looked at broadband gaps across each county. And that brings us to May 2021. After a series of priority area meetings, the task force produced and published a Northeast Florida recovery plan for COVID-19. And so there's 3 different sections within the recovery plan, which I'm about to get to in a second. But before getting there, really want to highlight that more than 24 partner organizations at the local, state, and national levels were involved in this process. They informed our work through guest speaker presentations and providing additional resources. And there's a lot of familiar faces on the page in front of you, but these are all of the individuals who made this process possible. And so in spring 2021, 3 priority areas were identified: infrastructure, support and relief for small businesses, and equity. And before diving into just a few of these recommendations, I would like to highlight the fact that I met with the county administration about a month ago to talk about this presentation and what you all were already doing within the context of the American Rescue Plan Act. And you all are really ahead of the curve of a lot of other local governments in Northeast Florida. You're taking a proactive process to address how you're going to spend the ARPA allocations. And this plan really reaffirms and supports all of the decisions that you all are already making. So just want to emphasize that, but there might be a few additional ideas in here that could support you moving forward. So in terms of infrastructure, one of the priority areas that was identified was the challenge of broadband access. So all across Northeast Florida, including here in Flagler County, the task force recognized that there were broadband gaps at the local level. And especially with remote working structures, children learning from home rather than in schools, internet is obviously a huge priority area of concern, and expanding broadband was an issue that was identified by the task force. Additionally, in terms of infrastructure, there is still the remaining threats of sea level rise and coastal flooding, and through the American Rescue Plan Act and other grant opportunities like FDEP, there might be opportunities to address some of those challenges in the coming years. And then in terms of small business relief and support, there was a lot of very interesting presentations given, especially by the Jacksonville Chamber of Commerce and SBDC at UNF. The task force determined that there was a vibrant and active ecosystem of small business support actors all across the region, but they were heavily concentrated in places like the city of Jacksonville. What they determined, however, was that the Jacksonville Chamber of Commerce, SBDC at UNF, can provide entrepreneurial and other small business services to counties all across the 7-county region. And so there are partnership opportunities beyond the horizon to connect local stakeholders here in Flagler County with other stakeholders in places like Duval or Nassau County to increase support and bolster opportunities. And then one of the other interesting ideas that was discussed was the idea of online crowdsource funding. And so there's opportunities to bring people together within a community to raise venture capital for small businesses on the ground. And that was just one of the examples that we looked at. So within each of these policies, there's some context, mechanisms for driving them forward, and then case study examples of how it's been operationalized in other parts of the country. And then finally, in terms of equity, some of the largest challenges that were examined by the task force included looking at mental health resources and then ensuring all have access to affordable housing. And within the American Rescue Plan Act, especially, there are opportunities to address both of these issues from a holistic lens, and we can provide follow-up resources to help you navigate those discussions. So very briefly, before concluding this presentation, just want to highlight recent guidance that was pushed out for the American Rescue Plan Act. There's an American Rescue Plan Resource Center that specifically provides guidance for municipalities and counties across the state of Florida. And so based on these estimates, and some of these have increased in recent months, more than $500 million is about to come through Northeast Florida in direct local government allocations from the federal government. And so this is really a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to utilize federal investments to advance local priorities. And our objective at the Regional Council, from a baseline perspective, is simply to communicate this to local governments, especially smaller municipalities, and then with counties like Flagler that are farther along in the process to support you in ways that you see fit. And so eligible project areas within ARPA relate to behavioral health care, small business support, investing in housing and neighborhoods, including affordable housing, water and sewer infrastructure, which I know is a heavy concern here in Flagler, and then expanding broadband infrastructure, which has traditionally not been a part of federal infrastructure packages. And a really useful example that you can consider as you begin navigating these discussions is the Nassau Prosperity Plan. So Nassau County, Florida developed this plan to guide their ARPA spending allocations. And the way that they're explaining it is that the CARES Act was really focused on real-time economic stabilization. It had to be spent quickly, and it was focused on a real-time disaster. The American Rescue Plan Act has to be obligated by 2024 and spent by 2026. So this is a different opportunity where you can build long-term return on investment, think beyond the horizon, and build prosperity in your community moving forward. And finally, the U.S. Economic Development Administration recently announced $3 billion in additional funding opportunities through ARPA. This is something we're very closely tracking. The Regional Council is the designated economic development district for Northeast Florida, recognized by the federal government. And so if you are interested in any of these opportunities after reading through them further, we have resources and staff members who can assist the county in applying for these funds. So this is really where I'd like to leave off or conclude this presentation. I will send you a direct link to the recovery plan later on today, and I'll provide you a few additional resources as well. Consider the recovery plan as you begin to have these discussions. There might be some ideas that you may have not thought about, but additionally, as you all apply for more funding opportunities and start navigating this ARPA discussion, you can utilize the recovery plan as leverage for reaffirming the decisions that you're making on the ground. Additionally, the Regional Council, through staff resources and data, we can assist you with additional grant writing and identifying additional opportunities at the state and federal levels. So we're always here to support you, and want to recognize Commissioner Sullivan and Commissioner Mullins for your continued service to the Regional Council Board of Directors. You all are what makes the Regional Council possible, so thank you for having me today. And if you have any questions, more than happy to answer them.
Thank you, Sean. Any questions? Yeah.
Sean, at our last meeting up in Jacksonville last week, you did make a presentation on that EDA, that last briefing, and I did provide that to Heidi. There may be some, I was hoping there might be some additional funding there that we could take advantage of. So I did do that.
We do, and thank you. And our tourism office is actually making an application to the Northeast Florida Regional Council to partner through them.
That's good to hear. Thank you.
Because that's in addition to the other funding, so there might be some there.
Okay. Commissioner Dance, I think you had a question? Or?
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
Under the broadband infrastructure policies and broadband, there was mention of the Eastside Jacksonville broadband program, and then doing an internet search. Really couldn't find much on there. Is there something you can send us that explains that a little bit more?
Yeah, so you're referring to the specifics of that pilot program?
Right.
Yeah, so
you mentioned it as some, best practices and things to look at.
Yeah, this is something we're really interested in, like kind of scaling or expanding. And so what they did was, install these Wi-Fi towers or centers in an urban area to provide free public Wi-Fi access. And we're interested in expanding that type of similar idea to another county, maybe through EDA funding. So we'll be more than happy to forward that resource to you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Mullins?
No, I want to thank you guys for all that you guys do, bringing all the unity together, bringing the other counties to help us have one voice and be heard much stronger. That has made a big impact in these areas. And because of that, at our next broadband meeting next week, we've got some big announcements and some big progress that we've made on getting federal, state, and private industry grants coming together. And I see us this year solving our broadband problem in the western side of our county. So I'm optimistic with that. Maybe I'm a little ahead of the time, but it may be the beginning first quarter of next year, but we're real close because of the support you guys have given.
Thank you, and that's really good to hear. Hopefully Flagler County can inspire other counties to approach it from a similar process.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sean, one other thing, let me give you this.
Yeah, no problem.
Would you contact me, please? All right, thank you.
All right, well, thank you, and have a wonderful day.
You as well. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you. Thank you.
Both
All right.
Doing good work.
Okay, we moved our time certain item to after the proclamations and presentations. So that's item 9A, and I'm going to read that. That's the Hunters Ridge DRI Notice of Proposed Change public hearing, and that was a continuance, or there's a suggestion of a continuance to the September the 20th meeting, which is now scheduled for 10 a.m. And anything you need to add on that, Mr. Magel?
No, sir, just here for any questions, and wanted to relay that we had asked the applicant, this is not to reflect negatively on the part of the applicant for the continuance, we had asked for more time. Thank you, sir.
Any questions for Mr. Magel?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we reschedule the Hunters Ridge DRI Notice of Proposed Change public hearing to the September 20th, 10 o'clock meeting.
Yeah, change that on to 10 o'clock.
Yeah, 10 o'clock meeting, and I don't think we need to put a time certain on that. Just let's schedule it for that meeting.
Yes, sir. And we have a second on that? All right, we'll open that up for public comment. Anyone from the public wish to comment on the motion to continue this item to September the 20th at the 10 a.m. meeting? All right, seeing no one come forward, I'll close public comment. Call the question. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. None opposed. That motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Mengel. Okay, we're going to move back to item number 5, or agenda item 5. First up is 5A. That's our community outreach portion. And again, I'll read it. This is a 30-minute time period allocated for public comment on any consent agenda item or topic not on the agenda. Each speaker will be allowed up to 3 minutes to address the commission. Speakers should approach the podium, identify themselves, and direct comments to the chair. I declare community outreach now open. All right, seeing no one come forward, we'll close community outreach. Oh. Sure. Yeah.
So what
You have to identify yourself, please.
My name is Jessica Bowman.
Okay.
I
Jessica.
live at 5 Rollins Drive in Palm Coast in the unincorporated area. What I'm coming to speak to you guys about is a proposed resolution that I would like to bring before you guys for you guys to consider passing, which would basically protect our right to privacy and prohibit medical coercion against us in this county. As you all know, we're already a constitutional county, so it would just further our rights under Article 1, Section 23 of the Florida Constitution that gives us that right to privacy. What I would also like to point out is that this resolution would be about making sure that people, especially ordinary folks with no access to lawyers or other help, could live without fear or bullying, and better funded, connected citizens of our community. Coercion's bad enough, but coercion to make significant medical decisions without giving people time or really time for reasoned decision-making really goes against a free society. And so it's really, this wouldn't be about taking anything away from anyone. It is totally in accordance with our freedom of choice. Instead, what it would be about is the prevention of bullying against those that, are being pressured into doing things that they don't want to do. It would protect the less fortunate and the less abled people. from being forced to do things that they don't want to do with their own bodies. So please let me know how I can best get this to you guys. I have passed it along, but if you guys would like to workshop it or, consider it, we would be most appreciated in the community to have this stance being taken by the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners, where they take an approach that says we will defend all citizens in Flagler County's right to privacy, and we'll take a uniform stance against any coercion. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jessica. Next speaker, please. Okay, seeing no one come forward, we'll close community outreach. One comment, Jessica, would be if there's, I don't know that I for sure am not quite sure what path you are talking about, and not to have dialogue today, but I would suggest you reach out to any one of us and maybe have a conversation with us a little bit more specifically about what you're trying to do. I think any one of us would be willing to sit down and listen and talk, and then maybe that would be the start of the process. Then, of course, we would have to consult with our attorney about how we might draft something like that, even if anyone wants to take up that business. So, all right. Okay. We'll move on to board comments on consent items. Again, this would be for us commissioners to make a comment, not necessarily to pull an item, but just to make a comment on something. So we'll start with you, Commissioner Sullivan. Anything?
Yes, just a comment. I just wanted to thank the board for putting up with this. We did have a special meeting of the Tourist Development Board to go through the funding coming out of our fund for beach replenishment. We're happy with it. I was happy to be able to tell the other members of the board, some of which are not part of the county government or us, about what was going on, and we appreciated that, and I'm glad to see it's on the consent agenda for today.
Okay. Commissioner Mullins?
I got none.
Commissioner Hanson?
I have nothing, sir.
No, sir. Okay, and neither do I. So with that, we'll move into the actual consent agenda. So any items to pull? Commissioner Dance?
No, sir.
Commissioner Hanson?
I have none, sir.
Commissioner Mullins?
None.
Commissioner Sullivan?
None.
And the chair has none. So with that, I'll entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the consent agenda. Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 It wasn't a poll. It was supposed to be at the same time. Okay.
He was early.
And if I didn't say it, I apologize. All right, so with that, that motion carries unanimously. We have no general business items. We've already taken care of item 9A. So we'll move on to additional reports and comments, which is agenda item 10. Ms. County Administrator.
Thank you. I just wanted to give you a quick update. The Bunnell Library has officially moved into their temporary location at Marvin Gardens. They're now officially located at 4601 East Moody Boulevard, Suite FI. They'll be there for the duration until we can build them a new facility. We anticipate that to be approximately 2 years or so, give or take. Also, in anticipation of our presentation and discussion regarding impact fees, staff has compiled a list of frequently asked questions. This will help guide our residents and local community business regarding impact fees, their use, whom they affect. This information can be found on our homepage on our website, listed under the latest news section, right there on the front screen. Staff continues to iron out details of our new mental health facility, Flagler Access Center. Discussions have been going extremely well. They've already initiated the hiring process of some additional staff. That was as part of that legislative appropriation, the $245,000 being administered through the Lutheran Services to SMA. Our general services staff has been working with them and continues to work with them and their facility staff to make modifications to their new space, which was formerly the Bunnell Library and the Sally Safe Haven. We are aiming for a grand open ribbon cutting of the new facility at the beginning of November, so that we'll have more information as that moves along, but we are hoping for a November 1st ribbon cutting. We have completed the review and construction bid costs related to the new Sheriff's Operations Center. As it was presented, it was approximately about $400,000 above budget. We have worked with the sheriff and his team to identify areas that do not affect the aesthetics or functionality of the facility that would bring the project within budget. This has been completed, and our contractor, Ajax, is in the process of updating that GMP, the guaranteed maximum price, for Phase 2. That'll be brought to you at your September 20th meeting to keep that project moving along on time. We're also pleased to announce that staff has been working with our local community partners to help develop a public service announcement for unified messaging regarding COVID. This PSA was developed internally by our talented communication staff and will appear on several social media sites, YouTube, and throughout our community partners. I know Jared's got it queued up. If we've got time, I'd like to just share this with you. It's rather quick. It's only about 2 minutes.
How are we looking? Everyone on board?
It seems like everybody's coming online now.
Denise Bevan, interim city manager for the city of Palm Coast here.
Mayor Alvin, City of Palm Coast. I'm ready.
Gary Forte, interim assistant city manager for the city of Palm Coast. We're on board.
Patrick Giuliano, public information officer for the Palm Coast Fire Department. We're ready.
Alvin Jackson, city manager. It is another great day. Fidel is here.
William Whitson, city manager for Flagler Beach. We're all on board and ready to roll.
Pat Downey, chief of police for the city of Flagler Beach. We're ready.
Greg Leninger, mayor of Marineland. We're a go.
Mayor Emmett, Beverly Beach, checking in.
Flagler County School Board, Colleen Conklin, schools are ready.
We're in this together, Flagler County. Thank you all for coming to help.
Together we can protect our friends, families, and neighbors. And together we can put this behind us for good.
Together.
This is Bob Snyder, the administrator of the Health Department in Flagler County, with a very important message. The Delta variant is more contagious and more severe with consequences than any other mutation of COVID-19. So now is the time to get vaccinated, and together we can make a difference, as you've heard from others. So why is this important? Well, it's not only important for yourself, but it's important for all the individuals around you, the people that you care about, the people that you love, your children, your parents, your grandparents, your neighbors, your colleagues, complete strangers that you don't even know, that you could unwittingly pass and transmit the virus to. So we have to do something about it. Enough is enough. And now is the time to act, and now is the time to please, please get vaccinated. Remember, this is a time to love thy neighbor as much as we love ourselves. Let's get it done.
And that does it for me as far as comments.
Questions for Ms. Petito?
Mr. Chairman, I looked over those frequently asked questions on the impact fees. That was really well done. It was, really answers all the questions. That's good.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hadid.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. There's only one case on our docket that has had action since our last meeting, and that's the Gardens. As you know, the board approved a revised site development plan and preliminary plat for the Gardens off of John Anderson Highway. That was in November 2020. In December 2020, the Preserve Flagler Beach group filed a petition in the circuit court to set aside the county commission's decision. The allegation was that the board had violated the due process rights of those seeking to petition the board, and also that the board did not follow the proper land use legal requirements. A hearing was held before Judge Perkins on August 31. so roughly about a week ago. And the judge has denied that petition. He upheld the county's providing of due process. He did not find any error in that. You may remember those were very busy proceedings before you with a lot of folks attempting to testify. So he found that the way you conducted the hearing was proper, and also found that the land use decision that you made was likewise proper. So he has not entered a written order. This was a ruling he made from the bench based on the oral arguments made by the various counsel, and also based on the written materials, by the way, including the full transcript and videos of those proceedings that were being challenged. So that order will be rendered shortly, but the petition challenging the Gardens project has been denied. Any questions about that case?
Mr. Chairman, just one quick question. So if this ruling goes forward, as you state, can that be, is that it? In other words, or can that be appealed?
There is an opportunity for a discretionary appeal to the District Court of Appeal. They'll have 30 days from the date that the judge signs and has the order filed in order to try to seek that discretionary review. It's not an automatic appeal. The appellate court has to determine that, yes, this is one that we do want to review. Should they take that step?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hadid.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the second community outreach portion of our agenda. So we'll open that up. Anyone from the public wish to comment? Okay, seeing no one come forward, we'll close community outreach and move on to commission reports or comments or actions. So, Commissioner Dance.
None today, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to thank Ms. Petito for the What We Do rack card. I've been using that, and it's spurred a lot of conversation when I do that in front of a group. A lot of people just don't understand what we do, and it's massive what we do as a county. So thank you very much for putting that together, because it's they're going like, I'm putting them out like crazy, and I'm getting a lot of comments. So thank you.
Commissioner Mullins?
Yeah, I'll zip through these real quick. Just wanted to let you guys know, and I know some of you others may have went down there, but the Hunters Ridge project in District 4, I went down and looked at. Phenomenal development. If they can pull off what they're looking at doing, it will bring our south side of the county a lot of recognition, a lot of revenue, and it's just a really high-end development. It'll be as nice as Plantation Bay. I was just pleasantly surprised with all that. So I just wanted to let y'all know that as far as my input from the district. Also, as some of you guys know, I came down with COVID a few weeks ago. I tested positive on a Friday. On a Sunday, I did what the governor brought out after our emergency operations. Jonathan Lord told me to look into this. I did the monoclonal therapy, and within 24 hours tested negative from doing that therapy. It is a phenomenal program. I've put it out in media, talked about it. A lot of people are reaching out saying they came down with COVID. Everyone that has told me they've gone down there has said within 24 to 48 hours they have tested negative and had no symptoms of COVID. So this process really needs to get a lot more recognition. I do want to also bring up that we did have a fallen deputy, Luciano, that our sheriff's department from COVID had recognized this past week. Again, this process needs to be really looked at because it can prevent a lot of that. The broadband, we're going to have some updated announcements at the next meeting about some really big progress we've made on broadband. Same thing, I know we're doing some great things with opioids. Heidi, when I was out of town last week, I got submerged with literally submerged with West Side flooding. I don't know. I know we're so far behind over there because of decades of just not paying attention to it or not being on top of it, and then also improper development. But if there's anything we can do to really push that forward, because they're flooding out, they're sending me pictures of stuff that looks like lakes and it's their yards. So if there's anything we can do to kind of help with that, I send them to you, but again, they're getting, it's a big problem out there.
Staff has been working on some of those issues, and some of it has to do with the territory and the low-lying areas. I know that through the American Rescue Plan funding, we did allocate money for a countywide stormwater plan and design, so that is something that I know engineering had been working on, so we look forward to that in the future. So
Thank you. Thank you. Also, I did have my first state rural rural and agriculture affairs meeting yesterday, teleconference. A lot of focus on broadband and water, the farm to road program that they're going to be pushing. Today I've got my first national workforce and housing call, and then also the Florida federal policy that I was appointed to. We've got those calls. Those both are at the same time, but we're going to do my best to make them. Also, just wanted to say this real quick. Last week, I had the ability, and I want to let the other commissioners know, I had the ability to fly to New York on some business, and it is devastated up there, the businesses, the economy, because of all the COVID regulations and rules they're doing. They've shut down restaurants. When you go into restaurants, some of them you guys probably frequented a lot when you went up there, just don't have the menu anymore. They're very basic menus, and people are, they just said this out of control. They're demanding passports, vaccination passports or cards to go in. People aren't showing them, and it's just wrecked their economy. Their government is really going to be facing some strong problems. I had one guy in a mask talk to me about, well, if you're vaccinated, you can take your mask off and you can come in. And I said, well, you can still test positive and be vaccinated. And he threw his mask back on and he said, oh, I didn't know that. And then he turned around and looked at me and I said, well, how's that protecting your eyes? So there's so much confusion that's gone out to the businesses, and they're struggling up there. It made me realize how thankful I am that we are here in Florida. We have a governor that's really looking out for our economy, because there are restaurants and blocks that are shut down up there. Tourism, I have never been to New York with as little people up in New York as there was. Hotels that you pay $600-700 a night for, or $100, and they're begging people to come in the marquee. I left there, went to Charlotte, and Charlotte has an epicenter. It's a big center like the town center in Jacksonville, and it had over 60 stores that were open. It's filed bankruptcy now. It's got 3 stores open, a restaurant, a bar, and it's just devastated their economy and their community. Landmarks that you'd never think were shut down. So it really made me realize how blessed we are, how great of a job this commission has done, the staff has done, the county has done. We've really just kind of sat back and said, let's get through this together, let's be safe, let's be conscientious. But they have destroyed their economy and destroyed people's rights up there. And I had more people telling me we want to move to Florida. It was unbelievable. But that's because of the government we're setting and the decisions we're setting down here. And it really, when you travel, you notice how great it is to be back in Florida and how great of a job we're doing. So I just wanted to bring that up so we had some confidence in the decisions we've made in the past and know we've done the right thing, because I don't know how they're ever going to recover up there. And the businesses certainly don't feel like they have any support. Thank you. That's all I've got.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Yeah, just one thing. I did attend the Deputy Luciano's service at the First Baptist Church last week. I wanted to bring it up because, first, he has a wonderful family. He had worked both in Volusia and Flagler. The sheriff and the men of the police department did a great job with that service. A large attendance there from both Flagler and Volusia, and just did a wonderful job. And he did point out that that Deputy Luciano was one of the only policemen, sheriff's deputies in the history of Flagler County to die on duty. I know we had a couple way back where were shot or something, and some who had retired. But this is a very unique situation that happened. It's unfortunate he did die of COVID complications, but it was well done and deserving of his service and what was done with the services they provided. That's it.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. For me, just two things. One, I serve on the Foundation Board for Advent Health Palm Coast, and I received an email this week from the folks at the foundation, just outlining some things that are going on in the community that they're having happen or participating in with respect to recognizing the frontline healthcare workers. And I just wanted to give you just a couple of examples. We know about the drive-through recognition that Flagler Beach Rotary Club organized along with the Sheriff's Department. But listen to some of this other stuff. Hammock Dunes Country Club donated 80 boxed lunches to the folks that work in the ED department. Mezzaluna Pizzeria donated 40 pizzas to show appreciation for second and third floor nurses and in the pharmacy. Dunkin' Donuts, the one I believe by Old Kings Road, because I know there's two different franchisees, is donating 20 boxes of donuts every week to hospital staff. And then they have private donations and a whole list of other ones that are going on. And the last one that I just want to mention real quick is we have a very involved citizen in Flagler Beach. She's a well-known family, Carla Klein. And if I'm not mistaken, she got folks to donate $20 gift cards, and they've received over 771 cards as of this week, just from folks in the community that are willing to do that. So I wanted to just point that out to just show what a caring community that we have, and you know, it's well deserved on the part of the frontline healthcare workers, and it's just as you can read or listen to or find out about, it comes from all different parts of our community. It's not from just any one segment. So just wanted to say thank you to all those folks and tell them how much we appreciate them. And then the only other thing is several of us attended the recognition of the, I guess this year it's 101 anniversary of the women's right to vote. And that the American Association of University Women did a couple Saturdays ago, I believe. And I just want to applaud Kim Medley and her group for organizing that event. It was very well done and very important that we always remember the struggles that people have had just to want to vote, which we all sometimes take for granted, I think. So appreciate her and the American Association of University Women for Flagler County for doing that. With that, I don't have anything else, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Just, thank you for bringing that up, by the way, because that really was an outstanding presentation. I mean, I learned a lot, and they did a wonderful job of doing that.
Yeah.
With that, Mr. Chairman, I move we adjourn.
Second.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.